Hello everyone and welcome to the Tempe Bike Count Training. Tempe Bike Count Training. Thank you for your participation and getting involved with the training here. I'd like to go over a couple things before we get into the parts of the training itself. Let's go over kind of a little bit of background. Why are we counting? So assisting the city in planning, prioritizing, and evaluating existing projects. The bike count lets them know where ridership is heading, where people are using those paths, and lets them know that there are projects that we're currently pursuing are certainly valuable. Certainly you can imagine with the traffic on Broadway and University and some of the traffic calming procedures they're looking to do there, understanding bike ridership is going to be very important there. Certainly helps them to justify federal funding for future bicycle improvements, reaching out to those federal funding opportunities and showing them the bike ridership is certainly a big part of that. Crash analysis gives them an idea of how many riders are on that area, so if they're having a lot of crashes, they can definitely see that there's maybe high crash per capita and so forth, as well as understanding the needs for education and outreach, recognizing that there's actually a recent Tempe City Council where a lot of people were thought that there was a lot of understanding of reasons to wear a helmet, and we were able to show data from the last bike count that only 17% of our riders were wearing helmets, compared to Tucson's similar bike count that showed 70% of helmet usage. So definitely some opportunities of education there, so we can recognize those with the Tempe bike count here. So what will you need when you actually go out to do your bike count? Things that we require that you'll definitely need to do a great job: a writing surface. So you're going to be holding this for a couple of hours. A clipboard or something that's very light and hard will be great. Certainly a book or something like that would work as well. Writing implement, we do recommend pen or a pencil would work as well. You don't want to have to erase many things because we're hoping that you'll get it right the first time, because that'll take time away from counting. But if need be, pencils can certainly work. You just want to make sure it's very clear and easily defined. As well, you want some kind of timekeeping device. We do the counting in 15-minute increments, so it is handy to have some kind of alarm to let you know to switch to that next section, because you can definitely get carried away in doing your counting. But a watch or a phone would certainly do the job. As well, you will need more counting forms than one per shift, or one per hour at least. I do recommend having backups just in case something happens to one, and maybe need to transpose numbers from one to the other, something along those lines. Things that we suggest certainly can be very helpful: having water. They are 2-hour shifts, and you can certainly get dry out there. Sunblock is helpful. The sun's going to be hitting the same part of your body for a couple of hours, so sunblock is very helpful for that. Headwear, some kind of eyewear, not a bad idea as well. A hat or something to protect your head and your neck and ears and so forth. A camp chair has never been regretted. No one has ever hated the fact that they brought a camp chair along. So something to sit on, especially if you're not one that stands for very long increments of time. Maybe not a bad idea to bring something to sit on. A lot of the sites don't have anything to sit on, so you might want to bring something. Safety when we want to practice safety first. Definitely keep yourselves out of harm's way. If there's traffic, definitely don't get anywhere near the cars that might be coming by, or if there's a lot of bikes coming by that sidewalk, definitely want to clear that out. If you do experience inclement weather or an emergency situation occurs, definitely keep yourself safe first. That's going to be the most important part, but if possible, keep counting. Great. So I'm sure you're thinking, I probably already know how to count. Let's take a look at some of the ways that we're going to be counting with the bike count. So you've got the count sheets that you have that you've either downloaded or gotten from Scott. Let's go over some of the areas on this count sheet. So first and foremost, definitely need your name there at the top. We also need the page number. Each of one of these pages applies for 1 hour of a shift. So you'll need one for 7 a.m., one for 8 a.m., one for 4 p.m., one for 5 p.m. if you're doing those shifts. The page number just kind of redundantly lets us know that it's a different page than the other one. We also do need the date. The date is going to be help us in just identifying which day that you counted. The location ID. Every single intersection and shift actually has its own individual location ID. A location ID would look something like 115P, 140A. The first 3 numbers is a unique identifier for the intersection. The letter afterwards, A or P, just indicates whether that's a morning shift or an evening shift. As well, you've got the hour indicator here on the left, so you can indicate whether that's 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., whether that's 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. We've also got that section down there at the bottom, observation and notes. This is for things like construction, that maybe we're diverting people to the opposite side of the street, maybe a City of Tempe truck parked on the sidewalk and they're checking a meter and that forced everyone into the street, or maybe someone got a flat tire, the car got a flat tire on the street and everyone had to go on the sidewalk. So just let us know what might skew the numbers away from an ordinary count. So just let us know that down there below. As well for counting, let's imagine you counted a bike that was northbound, their approach direction was northbound. You would just indicate with a single tally. Then you had a second person that was northbound. With the counts column, you want to indicate every single cyclist that comes through, but for the also check all that apply section, you want to count that if they also happen to match those features. So if our second cyclist or second rider also happened to be female and wearing a helmet, you would indicate those things as well. You don't need the section that says also check that all that apply. You won't necessarily have one of those for every single count, and you might have a lot more in the count column than you do in the other ones on the right. So if you have a third and then a fourth come by, you would certainly take those as well. When you have a fifth, just do that across, make it as clear as possible, please. And then if that fifth one happened to be a person that was riding on the sidewalk, that's where you would indicate that as well. Excellent. So let's talk about approach direction. Approach direction is the direction as they approach the intersection. So if a rider was approaching and they were approaching north towards that intersection, like this blue arrow is, if they went east, if they went west, if they went north, once they were in the intersection, that truly doesn't matter. We're not interested in turn direction. We're only interested in the approach direction, or the direction that the rider is approaching the intersection. So whether they go east, west, or north after the intersection, all of those are recorded as northbound, or NB. So that's approach direction. So we've gone over some of the major ways of major areas of the bike count. Let's take a look at maybe doing an exercise and taking a look at some cyclists themselves. Cool. So if you have printed out some count sheets, use one of the spares that you have, maybe to go through this exercise, or you can recreate the table below on a blank sheet of paper that you've got. You will need the 00, the top of the hour as well as 15 minutes after, all the northbound and southbound approach directions, as well as all the columns for these exercises. So if you're going to create your own, go ahead and pause this video, otherwise we're going to move on. So I went out to University in Ashe and took a couple of photos. The University in Ashe on the northwest corner has kind of a dirt lot. Northeast corner has a parking structure. South of University, there's a Circle K. There's kind of Cartel. There's a couple of other shops in there. That's the intersection I'm at, just to give you some context. So we're actually going to, for your exercise, use the 00 section as though it was 5 o'clock. That's kind of what we're going to simulate here. So I turn to my right. I'm looking to the south of the intersection. You can see the compass rose there at the bottom. Those cars are facing north. So these cyclists over here, they had, just before this photo, they had been on the sidewalk. Then they were cutting across that parking lot. So indicate the appropriate columns and make some tallies there. I'll give you just another moment. All right, so let's see what you guys got. You should have 2 in the northbound under the northbound row, under the count, and then one of them was female, and they were both riding on the sidewalk. So we didn't need to indicate that they were wearing helmets. We also didn't need to indicate that they were riding the wrong way. Let's actually take a moment to cover that real quick. Wrong way riding. With the traffic laws on a bike, you should be riding along with traffic. You should be riding the same direction the traffic is. So if someone is riding against traffic, that's where they would be doing wrong way riding, also called bike salmoning, when you're going against the flow of traffic. And as well with riding sidewalk, you should be riding either on the sidewalk, you should be riding in the bike lane, or you should be riding in the street if there's no bike lane. That's by law. But if they're riding on the sidewalk, we definitely want to be indicating those things. Cool. So let's do another activity, and this time it's for credit. We're actually going to have you send your answers in to Scott just to have you to verify that information. So this time we're going to use the 15-minute after section as though it were 5:15. So we're going to take a look at some photos here. And this is facing northbound, and the cars are southbound. So we're going to take a better look at those bikes. All right. And we've got a couple others approaching the intersection as well. We've got this gentleman approaching the intersection also. And the car in front of the picture here is north facing. All right. So if you've indicated on your sheet, go ahead and take the female wearing helmet, wrong way riding, and riding on sidewalk columns. Take those 4 numbers and mark them down, the total tallies that you have for those, and go ahead and send them to Scott. I'll have that email at the end of the video here. So let's talk about other things that may not be as rigidly defined in those columns. So this gentleman is walking his bike. He's walking his surfboard, and we're not interested in that. But he's walking his bike. Should we count people that are walking their bikes? By law, that is a pedestrian. So the reason we're not interested in that person is because if they were walking their bike on a sidewalk, if they were walking their bike against traffic, they're perfectly within their right to do that. That's not against the law in any form or fashion. If they were hit in an accident and they were determining that, they wouldn't be considered a cyclist. So anyone that's walking the bike, even if it's a flat or even if there's a whole bunch of people walking their bikes, if they're walking the bike, we're not going to count those people. What about this? We have a unicyclist walking a pug or a small sweatered dog. What about this person? So this is kind of one of those gray areas. I would say feel free to mark that person down. If you get a lot of unicyclists, maybe make a note in the observations column or observation section at the bottom to let them know that that's why your data looked like that. But certainly if someone's on a unicycle, you're free to count them, but certainly make a note about something like that that goes outside of that. There's only one unicyclist that I'm aware of in Tempe, so he probably won't show up on a count too often. So I don't know if you can tell from the picture, but there is a motorized assist on this bike. There's a battery there on the back rack. With something like this, what do you think? Should that be counted? I'm going to say yes, since it is a bicycle with a motor assist. This would be considered a bicycle, even though it does have the capabilities of the person not having to pedal the pedals by chance. But I would still call this a bicycle. And you should definitely indicate that. If need be, you can certainly make a note at the bottom under the observations. So what about this? This contraption does have pedals, but it's actually a moped. So I would say it's more mo than it is ped. I would say it's more of a motor bike than it is a bicycle. By law, mopeds actually are supposed to be licensed and registered at the DMV. So if someone's coming by on a moped, they should actually be in the street. They shouldn't be on the sidewalk or in the bike lane. And if you see those, certainly you can indicate them down below, but I would not count that. So in the photo from before, we actually had people that were past the intersection. The guy with the red backpack and the lady on the yellow bike. Actually, they were the ones from before. So if you get people that are past the intersection, we actually wouldn't count those folks since they were past the intersection. We've already counted them before. With situations like that where you have large groups of people or people approaching the intersection at different times, it's up to you to kind of develop a strategy for that. If you have lots of people approaching the intersection, sometimes I'll even just count the group of them. So we have 7 riders, and then you can go back and indicate, okay, we have 3 females, we have 4 people wearing helmets, and we have 2 people in the bike lane. So kind of come up with a strategy for that. If you have people that are stragglers, maybe one person approaches the intersection and someone's still pretty far away, I found it pretty difficult to count the person far away, and then as I went around the different sides of the intersection, coming back, I didn't remember whether I wrote them down or not. So definitely come up with a strategy. I would recommend waiting until everyone approaches the intersection, and you can kind of make a note if they're stopped at that stoplight. Great. So you've got your test data. Scott just wants to take a look at that to confirm it. Then he can confirm your assignment. Go ahead and email him at the email on the screen, scotty@biketempe.org. If you have any questions, you can certainly email those to him as well, or you can always give him a call at the phone number on the screen. So with your count sheets, you've got them completed, you've got them all ready to go. How do you get them back to us? So the first best place to get it to us is at the bike seller. That's indicated on the bottom of that bike sheet. With the bike seller, they do offer us a discount for the bike count discount, so definitely check with them on that. You can also get it to Boulders on Broadway. Just drop it off at the Hostess stand right there, Boulders on Broadway. You would also be able to, if neither of those are an option, you can also physically mail it to Scott. Certainly there are digital options available, but in the past we've had some difficulty with getting the right sheets back to us. So that's not the first option for us. Having the physical counts are very, very beneficial for that. If those are on options, you're welcome to email Scott about that. So the important part, how about the after party? So Thursday night after the last count at 7:30, we're going to be getting together at Boulders on Broadway. I believe that's tentative. Look out for an email to confirm that. But we'll be entering in data and kind of enjoying the bike community. So that is all for the Tempe Bike Count training. Thank you very much for watching this, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.